Let's focus, everybody. Hello Twitch and YouTube. I just went live. We're gonna do the patch notes review. I don't even know. All right, where do we start? We're just gonna read it all together. And we're gonna talk through it together. Chat's gonna react. You're gonna try to spoil shit that I haven't read yet. Turn off notifications. I could pause them, sure. Pause. All right, they're paused. We'll go ahead and do that after this stuff. We gotta review this all coherently, okay? Start together. Delve Challenge League. Challenge League is a great opportunity for a fresh new start. All your old characters are still present in Standard and Hardcore. You're encouraged to join new leagues and do stuff. Cool. 3x4, Standard, Hardcore, SSF, Hardcore, Standard. Same core mechanics, we already knew that. In the Delve Challenge, you can delve into the Infinite Mines, whatever. Help the inventor Nico, sure. Bring flares, we already knew all of this stuff. 40 challenges, you get a canary pet. Azurite back attachment, which are wings. And then Delve Portal, which is like a mine shaft. The canary is fucking cute, you should get that. 19 challenges onward, and every third challenge after that, you receive pieces of the Delve Totem Pole. We don't care. Alright, new challenges, or new content features. Added a new Strength Intelligence Gem, Smite, which we've seen in a previous spoiler. Before melee attack, causing lightning to strike a targeted location or nearby enemy, dealing damage in an area. Enemies can't be hit by both the melee and the lightning. Gain an aura, which grants added lightning when you hit an enemy with this skill. Whatever, sure. Consecrated Path. This is something we haven't seen yet. Slam the ground with your weapon at the targeted location. If an enemy is near where you target, you'll teleport from it from a short distance away, slam, and create an area of consecrated ground. Can't be supported by multi-strike, requires a sword, axe, mace, staff, or unarmed. So it's like Leap Slam, but it drops consecrated ground? If you're far away. If you're close, you just hit the ground. I don't know how I feel about that. It feels like a more controlled version of Flicker Strike, which I guess is fine. I mean, Consecrated Ground's a good, it's like 6% life regen buff, which is nice. I don't know how I feel about it. Alright, whatever. New strike in skill gem. Summon Holy Relic. Summon a Holy Relic that stays near you. When you hit an enemy with an attack, the Holy Relic triggers a Nova spell with a very short cooldown that deals physical damage and grants life regen. It's more effective to minions. Okay, so that's like a new Golem style skill, it sounds like. Because you only get one, probably. And it just heals and does damage when you hit stuff. Okay, I don't mind that. That sounds good, actually. Good buff for minion builds. And in general, a way to get extra heals for like casters and aura bots. That's kind of cool. Alright, new Strength Intelligence skill gem, Herald of Purity, which we've seen in a previous video. It gives you physical damage to spells and attacks, and you summon a sentinel when you get a kill. Or hit a unique. They have like melee attacks. It's kind of like a little minion that follows you around. You get a couple of them. I think you get 4. Something like that. Up to 4, and they stay up there. It's good. It's a good skill. Alright, Scourge Arrow we've also already reviewed. I'll link the previous videos to all this stuff because this is all like old news at this point. Toxic Rain's the same. We've already reviewed that. We already reviewed Herald of Agony. This is new. Vol Skill Gem. Vol Ancestral War Chief summons an ancestral totem, ancestor totem, that attacks enemies with a powerful cascading slam while you're near it. If the enemies are far away, it will leap as it slams when you get closer. Being near it grants you more melee damage. It jumps on them? Dude! Okay, I've always had this weird dream of having Flicker Strike totems. This is probably the closest thing we're gonna get to Flicker Strike totems. It literally will jump on enemies if they're far away. So you can clear with totems without having them like run, without having to keep laying them. I like it, I like it. Okay, we saw this yesterday, I think. Withering Touch, you get a support skill that gives you physical as extra chaos and has a chance to inflict Wither on hit. Wither's the debuff from Wither. It's like 6% increased chaos damage taken up to 15 stacks. So you can put that in your main skill and not have to have a Wither totem all the time, which is really nice for single target and for stuff like Uber Elder, where you don't have time to drop the totem constantly. It's kind of annoying. New Atlas of Worlds feature, which we've also talked about. Shaper Strongholds. It's basically a way to get permanent Shaper influence without clearing it. Like if I had it, come on, let me scroll. If I had a Shaper Stronghold spawn here, this would stay Shaper influenced until I cleared it manually. And if I cleared it manually, then you get like Sextants, you get Chisels, you get League Specifics, you get more Shaper items and Uniques. It's pretty cool. It's a good way to like manipulate your Elder influence to maintain your blob, for example, or to just blockade Elder from spawning at all, which I guess is the same thing. It's pretty nice. 26-ish new Uniques, 3 which were designed by supporters. Cool. 8 new div cards designed by supporters. Awesome. New system to handle high level. Oh my god, they actually added the party play improvements. This was supposed to happen last league during Bestiary. Or sorry, during. What the fuck league are we playing? Incursion. I'm sorry. So you could scale, right? So it lets you play with a low level party member, and you get downscaled. so that you don't one-shot everything and the lower level player actually still gets XP and currency. Otherwise, it just totally, like, what it currently does is just totally cuts off XP gain and drops for a lower level player with you. That's huge. It looks like it only applies at areas below level 67, but it's really nice for leveling. Like if you have a friend coming into the game and you want to level up with them, but you don't want to start a new character, you can just get on your level 50 or 70 or 80 or 100, whatever it might be. You'll get downscaled to their level and the area zone level, and you can actually play with them correctly instead of just shitting on everything. That's great. This is actually huge for party play. We haven't had anything like that for a long time. Some new graphical improvement stuff, which is all toggleable. It might fuck performance, it might not, it depends. Updated water simulation, flows correctly, I don't care, no one looks at water. New tooltip, which hovering over support gem shows which currently equipped skills can and cannot be supported by it. I didn't even know this was happening, that's huge. So this includes skills built into items and skills whose functionality has been changed to another support. That's so good. Okay, so when you mouse over a support gem in your links, which I have a 3-link, it'll tell you what's linked to it. That's actually so good for new players and old. Because a lot of times you don't know if a skill gem links to it, like Arcane Surge with RF, you have no idea if that makes sense. But now it'll tell you if it actually can link to it. That's so good. Such a huge quality of life, and it's like at the end of this list. I like it. That's really good, actually. Alright, minor new content. You can now right-click on a stash tab in the drop-down list and send it to the far left. This is huge for starting a new league. When all of your tabs are at the very back, you just go over here and you right-click, 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 and suddenly they're at the beginning. Saves you from dragging across 100 tabs, which is really fucking annoying. Good quality of life. New vendor recipe. They don't tell us what it is, so we're gonna have to figure that out. I like it. Okay, so we have to figure this out. 3 new faded uniques, which we've seen, I believe, 2 of. It's Joffrey's Crest and Chover Chabber are getting upgraded forms for minion stuff. I don't know what the other one is. Was there a 3rd faded unique spoiled? Beer of Kalandra recipe? It might be, yeah. We don't know. Added 22 new lab enchantments, including 2 for existing skills. So 22 lab enchantments is probably because it's 20 of them, right? They added 10 new skills, or skill gems, which might be for all of those. And then they gave us 2 for ones that already exist. Sure. Okay, cool. Several older monster models were updated. Great graphical improvements. 3D art for Chains of Command, Speaker's Wreath, Tinkerskin, Coming Calamity, Cloak of Defiance, and Garukun's Flight. Great, I don't really care. Updated visuals for several older skills, namely Ice Nova, Cleave, Frenzy, Heavy Strike, Caustic Arrow, and Double Strike, so they all look better. That's actually pretty cool for skill stuff. I don't like unique item art, no one cares because everybody has MTX for the most part. I guess if you don't have MTX, that's cool. But this stuff, skill updates is huge. Default attack and wand attack have new effects, great. Added a league information panel which you can view during character creation. That might be huge for new players because currently you don't really know what you're looking at. Like when you create a character, you're just like, what do I do? What does this mean? What's a challenge league? What is this? What's the default mode? Like none of that makes sense as a new player. So I'm glad they're finally addressing that. That's fine by me. Item filters are now capable of displaying minimap icons and light beams for specific categories of items. This is a buff for like off-screen characters. You can set it up on your loot filter. Neversink's already implementing all this stuff along with all the other major filter creators. If an Exile drops up here, for example, you can put an icon on the minimap. You can also put an item beam, something like this, for each item that drops if you want to. It can be temporary, it can be permanent. It's kind of like the D3 style loot stuff, which is a pretty common thing across all RPGs. So don't hate because I said D3. It's just like, it's cool. It'll make you so it's more obvious where stuff drops, especially if you have a fuckload of stuff on the screen. You can highlight with a beam of light that's like colored and custom and like intensity, all that stuff. It's cool. I like it. Added the capacity to use custom local sound filters files in your item filter. This is great. I do foresee some problems with some streamers putting like very lewd sound effects in their filters for like exalt drops or whatever, but it's cool for everybody else. Like you make custom soundboards based on your favorite streamers. Like you could get me screaming egg, you could get Ziz screaming undisputed, you could get Rise saying I can't move, bro. You know, I couldn't fucking move, whatever the quote is. I don't know. You get all those quotes, and you can just like add them in to a single like set of files and implement it with the hero filter. And I believe Neversink's filter blade is getting implemented he's implementing a way to do this through the actual like website, so that you can just upload your files to here and get it added to your filter automatically, which is great. You'll be able to do that all through the website without having to do a bunch of stupid shit. So thanks Neversing, send him your energy. Important dialogue options like quests are now highlighted. Okay, enabled 2v2 PvP queues. Huh, that's new. PvP updates are always good to see. We currently only have 1v1 and 3v3 CTF, capture the flag, so now we have 2v2 dueling, which is kind of nice, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it. If the arenas are the same size, it's just going to be the same meta. You just shoot the wall where they spawn, but whatever. You can now filter the passive skill tree by the terms keystone and notable. That's pretty cool. Added a new story, no one cares. You can now hear the slaves in the slave's pen talking to you. That's terrifying. Okay. Fleeing Orias citizens now say things that will make you feel even worse for accidentally killing them. That's fucked up. Why would you do that to us? GGG. I can't believe you've done this. Alright. The guy that opens the gate to Lion's Eyes Watch now says something. Okay, sure. There are now children hanging out in Orias Square, the nice version. Go say hi. Okay. Added a section of the mapping panel in the help panel about Shaper and the Elder. Great. Another thing I can't turn off as a toggle. You can't turn off this stupid help panel. Every time I get div cards, it tells me there's something about div cards I haven't learned yet. It's really annoying. But I'm glad they're adding stuff like that for new players. For an experienced player, it's just like, okay, whatever. But for a new player, that's pretty huge. Updated the art on the div card The World Eater to display the Shaper effect, and updated the art of the Samurai's Eye to display the Elder effect. Okay, so they're just giving div card art, Shaper, and Elder backgrounds. That's nice. Fire Trap and Explosive Trap now ignite vegetation. I have never cared about this. They added this to like RF and Scorching Ray and all the other fire skills. I don't like... I get it, it kind of helps with immersion, but in most builds you're going so fast you can't fucking tell, and it just drops frame rates, so it's like, who cares. Updated physics simulation at low frame rates. I don't know what that means. Or improved. Okay, so it should be better at low FPS, sure. Added a new buff icon for Arcane Surge. Great, it's easier to tell when you have an icon activated. Continue to incrementally improve sound, art, effects, and environments. Great. This is always like the most terrifying thing, because I want them to really just sit down and fix graphics for a long time. We have so many issues with FPS in this game that I wish they would just fucking take a league off. Don't post a league for a month or two, and work on improving game performance. That's something I've wanted for a long time now. Alright, character balance. Chance to block and chance to block spells have been reworked. Previously, there were several different modifiers that applied in different ways but achieved the same thing. For example, Stone of Lazar allows a portion of your block chance to apply spells, while Great Old One's Ward has a discrete chance to block spells. Some sources provide block chance that did not require you to have a shield equipped, while others require that you have some form of block chance for them to apply. Now, there is simply chance to attack, block damage, chance to block attack damage, and chance to block spell damage. Sources that previously caused some portion of your block chance to apply to spells now grant chance to block spell damage at specific value, and do not require other sources to block. The exception to this is Gladiator Ascendancy, which still sets your chance to block spell damage to be the same as your chance to block attack damage. A lot of people are freaking out about this. They didn't understand what it meant. Currently, Gladiator gives you 100% of your spell block, or 100% of your block as spell block. It's the exact same thing. They just had to change the wording to be better, right? But now that means you'll be able to get random uniques that have specifically spell block on them, or passives that give spell block, and then you can focus on one or the other. You don't have to force yourself to get attack block to also get spell block. Right, that's good. It's more versatility. It should be overall a buff for defensiveness stuff. And there might be some legacy items created out of that because of all the conversion stuff. We'll see. Instant skills can now be used by moving. This includes war cries, curses that are supported by blasphemy, auras. Wait, sorry. None of the skills which are ordinarily instant, such as an aura, will not be instant and therefore unusable while moving. Okay, so auras will be instant, war cries will be instant, a lot of stuff's going to be instant, so you can cast them while moving, that's great. Please note there's a known issue where instant skills with cosmetics applied that would ordinarily change their on-cast effect, instead use the default on-cast effect. Okay, there's just a couple MTXs that do something when you cast it, they're working on it, it's fine. Secondary damage, which is non-blockable, non-dodgeable, non-evadable, none of the spell block, you can't do anything about it, which is like Explosive Arrow, Detonate Dead, things like that. It can now be blocked, dodge, evaded, and spell blocked depending on its source. So if it comes from an attack like Explosive Arrow, you can attack block it and dodge it and evade it. If it comes from a secondary spell such as Volatile Dead, you can spell block it or spell dodge it, which is great. It's more defensive stuff, you can actually survive those things now. I like that. Sources of avoid interruption from stuns while casting no longer affect actions that are not considered casting, such as throwing a trap, mine, or totem. That's a nerf, I think. Yeah, because I guess you were getting this avoid stun when you weren't supposed to be. So it is a slight nerf, but that's whatever. Repeatedly weapon swapping has been limited to once every 250 milliseconds. They nerfed the attack helicopter build, which is they said they were going to do in the actual build of the week video, so that's whatever. We knew that was going to happen. Base trap throwing time has been reduced from 0.6 to 0.5. So that's a 20% less throwing speed nerf, which I don't like. I wish they had just nerfed the damage, not the speed, because it just feels worse to throw slower versus nerfing the damage gives you the same effect and it doesn't feel clunkier. I don't like that personally. Okay, let's do skill balance. The auto-targeting done by single target melee attacks, such as Heavy Strike or Molten Strike, i.e. any attack that requires name locking. This is so huge. Name locking skills are trash right now. Now targets enemies within a wider area based on the total range of your attack. The width of this targeting area grows by 1 unit per 3 units of melee range. This will make it much easier to target with these skills. That's actually so good. Like, for those who don't know what name lock is, you have to like mouse over an enemy so they're highlighted, and then you can attack them, right? That's just really bad and really annoying. They're fixing it so it's a little bit easier to do that. You'll be able to get like a more forgiving attack, basically. So if I attacked like here, if I press the attack here, like example, it would still target maybe, depending on how much weapon range you get. It looks like they're also adding a bunch of melee range for all of these gems that are name lock. Dual Strike, Ellie Hit, Frenzy, all of the melee skills that are name lock currently are going to get buffed so they get in weapon range. That's actually so good, because a lot of these skills are actually pretty powerful, but you never use them because they don't have good AoE and they're hard to target with. That's pretty huge. Like, this seems minor, but this is actually so good for so many skills. Alright, following skills are now instant and can be cast while moving. Blood Rage, RF, Molten Shell, Haste, Vitality, Discipline, so a bunch of auras. Convocation, that's a huge one for minions. Blood Rage, Righteous Fire are pretty good as well. Herald's great. Phase Run, that's huge for lab running. Aspect skills, which I guess are standard only, are going to be instant as well. That's fine. All instant skills now have some sort of cooldown, typically 1 second or less. Damn it. That nerfs the thought I had where you could do like Molten Shell, Scold's Bridal build, since it was instant cast. You could just spam it forever and deal damage each cast and explode your Molten Shell. I guess that makes sense because that would be kind of broken, but I kind of like that. Alright, instant skills cannot be supported by Spell Echo and will not be cast a second time by similar effects, such as Echoing Shrine. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Vol Prevention Time is now modified by modifiers to skill duration and buff duration if you affect the associated skill. For example, reducing the duration of Vol Earthquake will also reduce the Vol Soul Gain prevention time, while increasing the duration of Vol Haste will increase the prevention time. So basically this is a nerf for most things. Like, most of the duration-based Vol skills are what people want to sustain all the time. When you get a longer duration on the base, it makes the time before you can gain souls again longer, which is kind of annoying. Minions will no longer wander around as much as they're used to while you're idle. This is a big buff for hardcore and for grace period. There was an issue in Incursion League where you would go into an incursion, you're in grace, which means you can't take damage, but your minions will walk around, right? And they'll walk out of range and in back in range, and that'll sometimes aggro enemies around you, like ranged minions. And they will, they're ranged enemies, they'll attack your minions, which can't take damage, but they'll then kill you when you try to get out of grace period, because there's already projectiles coming at you, right? So they're reducing that range a little bit, which is nice. Alright, they've reworked 3 skills, Dawn Blow, Static Strike, and ooh, they reworked Static Strike? I didn't know anything about that. That's totally new. We've already gone over Dominating Blow and Caustic, but we haven't seen the full details, so we'll go and look at it real quick. Now when you hit an enemy with Dominating Blow, you apply a debuff. If the non-unique enemy dies while affected by the debuff, its corpse will be consumed, and a Sentinel of Dominance minion with the same rarity and mods will be summoned. Okay, you can have up to 9 normal, 3 magic, and 1 rare Sentinel of Dominance. Okay, so you have a maximum of 13 minions. That's unlucky, dude. What the hell? Attacks against unique enemies have a 10% chance to summon a normal rarity Sentinel of Dominance, so that's good for boss fighting. You don't run out of minions on boss fights as long as you can keep hitting. Pretty high base damage modifier. That's good. Base debuff is 1 second, base minion duration is 20 seconds. Okay. The issue I have with this is we still don't know what a Sentinel of Dominance is. Does it inherit the attacks of the minion that you summoned it from? Does it like have a ranged attack? Is it melee? We don't know anything about it, which is kind of scary, because it could be really good if they're like, if they inherit what you kill. It could also be really bad if they inherit what you kill. So if they were like standardized, kind of like golems are, where they have a melee attack and a ranged attack, then they'd be more friendly for every use, right? So I don't know, we'll see how that is. Still thinking about doing the dual wield Scourge stuff, but it looks like Scourge was completely invalidated by some of the skill tree changes, which we'll talk about in a bit when they get to it. Static Strike, this is a rework. I haven't seen this yet. Now when you hit an enemy with Static Strike, you will gain a buff, which causes you to frequently hit nearby enemies with beams dealing attack damage. Okay. The beams deal more damage while you are moving than while you are stationary. Buff can stack up to 3 times, increasing the frequency with which the beams strike. Deals 100% of base damage up to 146, that's a decent scaling. Beams deal 60% less damage while stationary and 40% less while moving. Drops slightly as the gem levels. Beam can hit up to 4 targets and up to 6 at level 20. Base buff duration is 4 seconds, and each stack increases the striking frequency by 10%. So they totally got rid of the previous mechanic, which is when you hit an enemy, you get a charge. When that charge duration expires, you explode into AoE around you. Which was basically just like a delayed way to deal damage to targets. I'm not sure how much AoE this is going to have. It doesn't say. Or how much, like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. We'll have to actually see what this looks like. I can't tell how good that is. Also, only being able to hit 6 enemies at a time is kind of shit, because, like, when we're mapping, there's like 1,000 enemies around us. I don't know how that's going to be. We'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I don't know yet. Caustic Arrow. Now deals damage in area around targeted location before leaving a lingering patch of caustic ground, which deals chaos over time. As caustic ground is a ground type, it will not affect flying monsters such as raging spirits. This is the dumbest fucking thing, okay? For those of you that don't know why this is stupid, there are things that travel along the ground, like burning ground, caustic ground, but also skills such as spark. Spark is a ground projectile. You cannot kill raging spirits or animate weapon with spark because they're flying. It doesn't say this anywhere in the game, but it's just a mechanic that you're expected to learn, and it's so fucking dumb. Like the map Death and Taxes. Death and Taxes, where is it? Let me get it. The unique map Death and Taxes, right? It spawns animate weapons every like 2 or 3 seconds, and they're supposed to be your flask refilling. But if you're using a skill like Spark, you cannot hit the fucking minions. And I learned about this 2 years ago-ish in Parandus League. I was playing a Voltaxic Spark Scion, and I did a Death and Taxes, and I couldn't kill any of the goddamn minions, because they're flying. Why? There's no reason for this. Get rid of this. It's fucking stupid. Alright, brace duration of 2 seconds, sure. 60% Fizz to Chaos. Conversion, that's cool. Previously it added extra Chaos based on Fizz, and now deals 7 per second at level 1 up to 1,700. Okay, that seems like a lot. Let me check this out. What's the current level 20 damage? Okay, so they like it's like 2.5 times the current dot damage, which is pretty huge actually. They reduced the duration heavily, but that's a pretty big fucking buff. I like it. Alright, other skills. So they did nerf like traps a little bit, so they buffed the actual trap and mine skills to compensate for that. So they increased the damage of Fire Nova Mine, increased the damage of Fire Trap, increased the damage of Lightning Trap. Great, my Lightning Trap Saboteur got buffed. Ice Trap increased. They didn't give it AoE though. That's the main thing Ice Trap needed, was just AoE. It has a really good damage scaling already, and it looks fucking amazing, especially with the MTX, the Frostflower MTX, but it has bad AoE, so I wish they had buffed that a little bit. Explosive Trap got base damage and earlier damage. Okay, sure. Frost Realm now reduces ES regen and recovery rate, not just life regen. So this is a huge buff to Frost Bomb for killing Spider Queen, which is a targeted nerf. Thanks, GGG. Stop nerfing my Grandmaster. What the hell? Alright, so Shield Charge now has 3 distinct sections: the start of the charge, the movement part of the charge, and the attack at the end. Your weapon's base attack time now affects the start and end, and movement speed, and increases to global attack speed now affect the middle. Local attack speed modifiers no longer affect the middle part of the charge, whereas previously they would. This is a nerf for things like Brightbeak, which has a huge local attack speed modifier, but everything else is just the same, right? In other words, while using Brightbeak will cause the start and end point of the charge to be quicker. It will not cause you to move from point A to point B any more quickly. For that, you need to invest in global attack speed and movement speed. I actually really like this. To help compensate for this loss for most characters, Shield Charge now gains movement speed as the gem levels up. So the reason they did this is because like there's a billion fucking characters that are pushing to level 100, and they're equipping a Brightbeak and a shield because it's the fastest movement speed setup, which is dumb, right? You shouldn't have to use a single 1-alch unique to level 100 because it's just the fastest option. I get that it's clear speed meta, whatever, but I want to see variety, and I want to see like people actually using real weapons and damage weapons instead of just using a fucking Brightbeak all the time. So you'll get up to 20% movement speed for those of you that don't have a Brightbeak, right? And for anybody using a normal weapon, it's just an overall buff, I think. And then it'll give us more build versatility. You'll see people using crafted weapons instead of just throwing on a Brightbeak, which I like. Alright, Flame Dash. They buffed this pretty heavily to compensate for this nerf. They lowered the cast time, increased the range, bringing it up in line with Leap Slam and Charge Dash. Now gets cooldown recovery speed per gem level up to 76% at level 20. And quality bonus grants cooldown recovery speed per. So you can get 96% cooldown recovery with a 2020 gem? Am I reading that right? That's actually pretty fucking good. You might be able to like spam Flame Dash infinitely now. That's so good. Holy shit. I think the... Oh, fuck. Let me look. What's the current cooldown on it? It still has charges, yeah, but it's gonna be like... The cooldown's fast enough or it won't matter, I don't think. How long does it take to get the charge back? I don't know what the cooldown is on it. It doesn't say on the wiki. But it might be fast enough where it's like less than a second, so you can more or less just spam it. Which I really like. It has a default of cooldown of 3 seconds. Okay, sorry. So if you get 96% cooldown recovery rate, I believe that's the same as getting it twice as fast, so it'll be a 1.5 second cooldown on the charge. I think that's how recovery speed works. It's not like you just get 100, you don't get 0 duration rate. I think it's just 50% increased speed, basically. I don't know exactly. I'm pretty sure that means you'll have a 1.5 second, or a little bit less, maybe 1.4 because they reduced the cast time. Or never mind, that doesn't make sense. I think it's like the 1.5 charge, which is pretty good. Not ideal, but pretty good. Lightning Warp got buffed as well. Base cast time lowered. That's a pretty huge reduction, actually. 50% less, 15% less cast time. Now has 20% reduced duration at level 1 from 0, big buff, and 39% reduced at level 20. So they made it feel better at low levels, but it gives you basically the same at endgame, and they buffed the cast time. Lightning Warp has actually like been usable for a while. You just kind of have to invest into it. You need to use like faster casting, less duration, and maybe Swift Affliction to get a full reduced duration. This will make it feel a lot better, which is cool. Rain of Arrows now includes projectile, so you can give it projectile damage even though it already did. Most things that have the bow tag have projectile damage being able to affect them. It just doesn't make sense for a lot of people, so they're actually clearing that up a little bit with this. Alright, Sunder got nerfed slightly here. Base range was reduced by 20% at all levels, and base explosion radius was reduced at all levels. Radius now grows more slowly. Okay, so this is like... People are freaking out about this, making them think that Sunder's no longer playable. The damage was the same, right? They nerfed the range, so we'll do some paint drawing here. I know you guys love watching me draw on paint. So, I need a rectangle. Alright, we'll make a character real quick. This is your person. Beautiful, amazing. You have some sort of like stick thing. Alright, cool. Sunder currently does like that much range, and then the explosion will do, the radius on the explosion will do like, I don't know. This is gonna look like a dick no matter how I draw it. Let's see, fuck, whatever. Here's an explosion, right? Oop. Give me the explosion. We're just gonna draw dicks together, chat. It'll be fine. Alright, so they've reduced this to about, like, say 20% less, which is probably like right here-ish. And this is going to be the same, if not just slightly smaller, right? It's like, they didn't nerf the damage, they just nerfed the AoE clear on it. That's not making sense. You know what I mean, right? It's the same skill, the damage is the same, but they just made the AoE, like, smaller. Because it's too good at leveling at long range. You've drawn a crack pipe. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just like, I don't get why they nerfed the range instead of nerfing the damage. And it's also a nerf for endgame. Like, you want that AoE at endgame, there's no way to increase this base range. They just made it worse at endgame. Ideally, you would want them to just reduce the damage early on, because that's when it's mostly used, and let it scale into endgame correctly. Like so you can use it correctly at endgame. Which I just don't like the way they nerfed this. I understand the reasoning, I don't like the way they nerfed it. It's a one-ball dick, leave me alone. Alright, Kinetic Blast was pretty heavily nerfed. I talked about this yesterday as well. They nerfed the damage by 10%. They nerfed the explosion placement. They're now divided across equal arcs. In cases where there's no space in that arc that could place an explosion, that explosion is not placed. Explosion spacing is more regular. The net result is that in open spaces, the area coverage will on average be more even. So it's better for AoE clear, which is the intent of the fucking skill, but it's worse for single target. We'll draw this in paint as well, because I did the same thing yesterday. Where's my paint icon? So normally, Kinetic Blast, you fire a projectile, it hits a target, right? And then you get 4 explosions around that target. Something like that. They can currently overlap, whatever, right? And then if you hit a wall, it's the same thing, except for... how do I do this? These last 2 explosions will just get moved on top of the other ones. So you can get all 4 explosions to happen in the same place, which is bad. Now, if there's a wall interfering with that, these explosions just won't happen at all. It's really hard to draw in paint. These just won't happen anymore. Which is like a nerf to the single target damage, but it's like, it doesn't matter for the clear. So this means that your wanders, which use this skill, will be like, they'll have to actually invest in a single target skill setup, which means you just use barrage. Exactly. Like, it's not a nerf to the wander, it's a nerf to using kinetic blast as your only 6-link, or your only like main skill. I'm perfectly okay with this. Kinetic blast has been OP for years and years now, and now you have a reason to use like a good linked setup for your KB clear, like say a pair of Elder gloves or a Shaper helm or an Elder helm, or an Essence of Horror helmet for your 4-link kinetic blast, 5-link pseudo 6-link whatever, and then you use a 6-link barrage setup. It doesn't really change the wander playstyle, it just means that you have to actually invest in a single target setup, which I like, because it just feels kind of dumb to use an AoE clear skill and abuse the mechanic to use single target damage. I don't like that. Ooh, okay, this is new. Orb of Storms can now be cast by mines, traps, totems, and can't be triggered. That's so weird. Normally it's only self-cast, right? Right now you can only self-cast it. You could do Orb of Storms traps. That would be so laggy. So you drop an orb and it just goes tick, 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 tick. You could have like 50 of these. Wait, so if you get the buff from that, Orb of Storms give you a little bit of extra damage when you cast a lightning skill in the radius, right? Using a lightning skill while inside the orb unleashes additional bolts. If you have like an Orb of Storms cluster trap, multi-trap, with an extra trap on your gloves and some trap stuff, and you throw like 20 traps, all of those are active, you walk in and you cast a lightning bolt, or a lightning skill, does it give you a bolt from all of them? Or does it only give you a bolt from the one that you have cast yourself? If it gives you a bolt from all of them, that might be insane for single target on like any lightning build. I like that. It's more versatility. Yeah, self-cast arc would be a good example. Lightning trap I think would work by that. No, it wouldn't. Maybe it wouldn't. Self-cast storm call. I think there's a lot of huge stuff that you could do with that. You used to be able to cast Tempest Shield and do this with Orb of Storms. I've seen that build. Because Tempest Shield is a lightning skill, it has a very, very low cast time, 0.25 seconds. You could just stand there and like T-pose on enemies with an Orb of Storms next to you, and then the Orb of Storms does a pretty huge amount of damage. It's a really funny looking build. You just like walk up, drop Orb of Storms, and your character just goes T-pose, and you just twitch until everything dies. That might be a buff to that skill. I don't know. We'll see. All right, next one. Molten Shell. Mana cost increased, and okay, who cares? They just buffed the mana cost, whatever. Earthquake and Vol Earthquake. The Aftershock, which is the more multiplier part, now deals 70% up from 50% more damage with hits and ailments as opposed to every form of damage. Is that a nerf? Hits and ailments. So they nerfed something on that, but they gave it more overall upfront damage, which I like. And it's at all levels, so this will feel a lot better at level 1. A lot better. The Aftershock will deal significantly more damage at level 1, and then I think this is a nerf part though. I'm not 100% sure. Alright, Vol Righteous Fire now sacrifices the amount of life and energy shield from ES before life. In other words, low life builds should not have the skill disabled on use as long as they have enough ES to cover both costs. This is pretty important. Currently, Vol RF turns off your Righteous Fire on a low life build, which is just annoying as hell. If you don't have a way to get life back, it just keeps it off. Like, it's just dumb. They fixed it so you can actually use it correctly on a low life build. I like that. Vol Molten Shell, they buffed the duration of the prevention time, so that's a nerf. Fall Clarity, same thing, that's a nerf. Support Gem Balance, now causes multiple traps, now gives less damage, up from 40%. Wait, hang on. Yeah, okay, so they nerfed the damage here. And Cluster Traps now causes to throw up to 2 traps instead of 3. So this is actually a pretty huge nerf for trappers, every type of trapper. Currently you throw 3 plus your default, so you get to throw 4 at a time. And now you only get to throw 3. So that's a 25% less damage multiplier per throw, which is pretty huge nerf for your clearing. For single target, if you're spamming, it's a nerf, but when you build up your maximum number of traps and then throw it, or have the enemy trigger all of them at once, it's the same. It is a pretty significant nerf across the board, and it means that having a pair of Shaper gloves with additional trap is more or less mandatory at this point, even though it kind of already was, because it was 25% more damage before. That's a nerf. This is also a nerf. I don't know if I like that, but trappers, I mean, people were throwing together an Arc Trapper with like 2-3x of gear and was able to kill Uber Elder with it. with enough like quick damage to actually shut him down. That's too strong. So I can understand toning this down, but I wish they had just made it like a less damage scaling mod instead of removing the trap. Because for some skills, that extra trap is actually like a good amount of AoE clear, like arc or lightning trap or any AoE skill basically, or any projectile skill. It gives you better AoE coverage, and they nerf the AoE coverage. But I think that's fine. Like currently, there's no reason to play a self-cast build. You only play traps because it's just strictly better. Now there might be a reason to play self-cast since they nerf traps, which I guess is fine. Physical projectile attack damage has been renamed to vicious projectiles. Makes sense. In addition to continuing to give like more damage and less attack speed, which was already there, it now gives more chaos damage and more physical damage over time, as opposed to more damage with bleeding and poison. This is really good because it allows you to scale your Caustic Arrow, your Toxic Rain, your Scourge Arrow stuff, as well as giving it everything that it used to have. It used to already do that, or it used to not do that, sorry. It only scaled bleed poison, now it scales every form of damage, which is pretty good. I like that. It's a good change, and the name is just better. PPAD, physical projectile attack damage, is just fucking stupid. So, vicious projectiles is a good name. Alright, passive tree changes. With the introduction of several new holy themed minion skills, we've reworked the early Templar and Witch passive trees. These changes allow minion players to put more power into their minions much earlier than previously and provide much more interesting pathing choices later. This is good. If you look at the skill tree currently, there's not that many minion nodes. Like, this is all the minion nodes we currently have. Wheel, wheel, cluster, wheel, 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 and some stuff here, right? That's it. There's nothing else on the tree that's related to minions. So the only thing that you can grab at that point is jewel sockets. So it looks like, let's see, they're adding one at the Templar start. First two passive skills now provide increased damage rather than Ellie, and the melee damage have been replaced by attack damage and melee damage. Okay, so they've replaced this with minion damage stuff, so you can take this for minion nodes. And this is now generic damage here, which is nice for melee builds and fizz builds. I like that. Okay. The Retribution notable now grants 40% increased damage instead of spell and minion damage, and spell and melee damage. This notable also causes minions to deal increased damage. Okay. So this node is just like more generic now. I like that. Sure. The small passives of the Amplify cluster now grant 10% increased area, up from 8. There's a new passive connected to the Amplify notables that grants AoE and allows players to exit north towards Galvanic Hammer. Okay, so they just connected right here, it looks like. They added something here and connected towards this. Okay, sure. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. They're just going to like move these nodes up a little bit and then add a wheel here, or like a node. That's fine. New passive connected to Righteous Decree notable that grants 5% increased maximum mana and reduced cost of skills, allowing players to exit south towards Sanctuary, which is here. So that is, where's Righteous Decree? This. So they're just connecting here to here. Same concept as up here. Okay, that's fine. Sure, more mana nodes is great. I wanted to say before I go into much more of these that them changing the passive skill tree is actually so important because it's been stale. Like, they haven't changed anything major on this passive tree for like a year plus at this point. And if you're an experienced player who plays a lot of builds, the skill tree is kind of solved. You don't have to think for most builds. You can kind of throw together a generic tree in like 5 seconds, which is kind of annoying because you don't have to think, right? And then path building made that even easier. There's even less reason to think. But once they add new pathing, it makes it a little bit more fun to theorycraft a build versus like not having anything major to think about, which I like. I mean, it's been a while since we've had a shake-up on the passive tree, so it'll be fun to discover all the new correct quote-unquote pathings here. I like that. And yeah, this part of the tree is becoming a clusterfuck, but it's, I mean, this part of the tree is already a clusterfuck and it's supposed to be symmetrical, so I'm happy about that. Alright, next one. Elementalist, Catalyze, and Light of Divinity clusters have been merged into one holy cluster. Spell damage and weapon elemental damage passes have been replaced with elemental damage. Okay. Elementalist, Catalyze, and Light of Divinity, right? Yeah. So they're just merging all of this to be one wheel. So it'll be a little bit cleaner. It'll probably be similar to like what this looks like right here in the center instead of it being weirdly connected in 3 different directions constantly. That's kind of good. Since this is going to get more spammy, they're making this into one section. Sure. Catalyze has been renamed to Divine Favor. In addition to the increased elemental damage, it now grants melee crit and causes damage with weapons to penetrate resist. That's huge. That's really good. Okay, so currently the only ways to get Elipen on weapons, there's like a couple clusters. You have a fire cluster, you have a cold cluster, you have a lightning cluster up here, and then you have some generic ones. You have a generic here and generic here. That's it. There's no pen on the left side of the tree at all for elemental with weapons, so they've added one to here. Where is it? Here, which is pretty good. I like that. I mean, Templar is like the ignore resist pen class, and it's weird to not have a pen node nearby for melee, so they've added that. I like it, sure. Elementus has been renamed to Holy Dominion. In addition to all res, chance to freeze, chance to elemental damage, sorry, it now grants increased global fizz damage. Okay. Where to go? Elementalist. This node has been buffed pretty heavily. Extra fizz damage. I like that. They buffed the Ellie and gave it fizz damage. Okay, sure. Small passives leading up to Holy Dominion now grant 10% increased Ellie, up from 8. Where's Holy Dominion? Sorry, what? They just renamed it to that. Okay, so these nodes give 10% damage now. Sure. Light of Divinity now grants light radius, or they nerfed the light radius, but they gave it increased crit for spells, in addition to what it currently has. Okay, so this just has spell crit on it too. I like that. I'm fine with that. There's not that many spell crit clusters. There's like 3. 1, 2, 3. And then every other type of crit you get on the tree is just generic crit. Like this cluster, for example. That's multi. Wait, where's a crit? Like this cluster. Global crit, right? So that's cool. They've added a bit of spell crit on this side of the tree. That makes sense. Where were we? Elemental damage passives in the Celestial Judgment, Celestial Punishment cluster now grant more Ellie damage, and the first passive is better as well. Okay, so these nodes were buffed. This goes to 10, these go to 8. That's fine, just a generic, a little bit of a buff there. There's a new cluster just north of the Celestial Judgment that grants minion benefits. In particular, the farthest node causes increases and reductions to minion damage to also affect you. Currently, the only way to get that effect is on the Scourge Unique Claw, which drops from Chimera. Increases reductions in minion damage also affect you. So they're more or less invalidating this node, or this weapon entirely, unless you're playing like a bottom right side of the tree build, because you'll just be able to get it right here. Which is, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, this was a unique effect, and now it's not. But it's also a good way to get that effect on builds that want to play things like Dominating Blow. So I think that's a good thing, to be able to actually get that effect on a lot of builds. Your minion casters can now do damage, your minion attack builds can now do damage. I like that. Puppet Master and Herd the Flock immediately north of Templar Start have been renamed. So that is these two. Sure, you rename them, whatever. Sacrifice Cluster now grants minion max life. Okay, so they nerfed that. They gave it all res, minion regen, and flat life regen for yourself. Okay. They've moved the zombie and skeleton to Death Attunement, which is up here. So this has +1 specters, +1 zombie, +1 skeletons as well. And this now gives you less total max life, but it gives you life regen and minion res. I don't know how I feel about that. It's weird that they took away the zombie and skeleton. Okay. Herd the Flock, which is now Spiritual Command, grants 43% minion damage, 7% attack speed, 7% cast speed, 40% minion accuracy. This is huge. There's no sources of minion accuracy in the game right now, other than using the additional accuracy support, or like Necromantic Aegis, which gives your shield to your minions, so you can give your minions Lycosidae, for example. This notable also causes increases and reductions to minion attack speed to affect you. So it's the same as the damage one, but attack speed this time. Okay, then they move the zombie somewhere else as well. Interesting. So this is now a buff yourself with attack speed and your minions with attack speed and accuracy, which is huge for attack builds. That's a massive damage increase. Huge buff for minions. They move the zombie to Grave Intention. Where's that? Grave. That's all the way over here. Wait, so this gets +2 zombies now? Okay, that's a buff for Witch, I guess. Nerf for this side, though. It looks like this side of the tree is going to be more focused towards using a skill that spawns its own minions versus a skill that spawns scaly zombies or specters. Which makes sense, I think, because that's what they want Guardian to be. So I guess it's not a nerf, they're just like adjusting where the nodes are. This side of the tree is for if you want to deal damage yourself and have minions that deal damage, and this side of the tree is for if you just want damage from your minions that are like, you know, skill spawns, zombie skeletons, specters, and this is like dominating blow, herald of purity, smite style stuff. I think that's fine, that makes sense. Animate Guardian, yeah, that would be up top as well. Second passive on the right path of the witch's start now grants minion life in addition to the minion to the ES. So that would be this node. Gives minion life. Okay, sure. The right hand arc of the witch's leftmost starting cluster now grants 4% attack or cast speed up from 3. So they buffed these nodes. That's good because they're just strictly worse than Shadow Start, which is 4% attack and cast speed. I don't know if you can see that. It's the same as that now. Sure. The mana and mana regen passives on the right-hand arc of the witch's... God, it's so hard to read this. The right-hand arc of the rightmost starting cluster have been replaced by minion damage, attack speed, and cast speed. So these nodes, they're no longer minion, or they're no longer mana, they're minion stuff. That's cool. You can actually get minion damage when you start as a witch. I like that. Occultist Dominion notable has renamed to Arcanist's Dominion and now grants 5% cast speed. Okay, so they just buffed this and renamed it. I don't know why. I guess Occultist is more of a chaos minion style build, not spell damage, so that's sure, whatever. Lord of the Dead notable now grants 30% minion accuracy. That's pretty huge. Again, minion accuracy is incredibly important because there's no real source of it right now. So they gave that to here as well. That's pretty huge. New mana cluster just above the Deep Wisdom notable, which gives 31% mana, mana regen, mana recovery from flasks. That's really good. And 2 mana regen per second. Okay. Deep Wisdom. So I believe that was supposed to be these nodes. These nodes are being moved to basically be here, or on this side, and then the ES nodes are on the other side. So this will be like a full wheel now, just like this is, instead of just being a single line through it. It makes sense. It's kind of weird that it's not like that currently. So that's fine. The northernmost passive of the Arcane Focus cluster now gets 5% mana regen. Arcane Focus. Where even is that? Oh, okay. So they just put it there. Here, probably. That's fine. Fire Walker, Lightning Walker, and Frost Walker are buffed. They get 20% from 18. The passives immediately above them are buffed as well. Elemental damage was buffed as well. Okay. So all of these wheels... Wait. These wheels, sorry. These wheels are better. That's fine. This wheel is actually pretty rarely taken, so I'm glad they're giving it a little bit of a buff. Grave Intentions near Pain Attunement now grants +2 maximum number of zombies, which we talked about earlier, so we've kind of already said that. They said that they're moving it over here, they just added another line of text for that. The small area of effect passives now get 10% increased AoE up from 8, so same buff here that they did over here. That's fine. Added new clusters to the passive tree focused on expanding the effect and utility of Warcries. New cluster, Words of Glory, has been added between Marauder and Templar. So probably here, I would think. It grants increases to Warcry duration, cooldown recovery speed, and buff effect. The notable also causes your Warcries to cost no mana, and grants you and nearby allies, which includes minions, increased attack, cast, and movement speed if you've Warcried recently. I like that. There's actually a reason to use Warcries beyond like the occasional build that's like, I want endurance charges. So you might actually see more builds using Rallying Cry, which is a pretty good Warcry to start with. Gives you damage and your minions damage and regen for mana. So now it'll give you attack, cast, movement speed. This is like a overall it's a buff to everything, right? But it means that playing on an Aurabot, for example, you have a reason to use your Warcries on an Aurabot instead of just running around picking up loot and not having to do anything. It'll promote a more active playstyle for minion builds, for regular attack builds that want to use a Warcry, for Aurabot style builds as well. I like that. Another cluster has been added near Unwavering Stance. It offers Warcry duration, Warcry recovery speed, and increases Warcry buff effect. It also makes them instant. Okay. So that'll be probably right here, I would say, on this side, for an instant Warcry buff. Okay, I like that. To coincide with the new Chaos Damage bow skills, which would be Toxic Rain, Scourge Arrow, Caustic Arrow reworked. We've reviewed and adjusted some of the poison and bow passives around the Ranger. The Fatal Toxins cluster was changed, so instead of dealing increased damage with poison only, it now gives poison damage and increased chaos damage with attack skills. So this is like promoting another type of playstyle. Instead of just pure degen from poison, you now get generic chaos damage, which is good. You can play like on hit versions instead of just pure poison. I like that. Master Fletcher, oh, you should probably see where that is. Fatal Toxins, I believe, is right here. Yeah, so this was changed to be not just pure poison. I like that. Master Fletcher and the passive skill leading to it now grant increased dot with bow skills rather than increased damage with ailments. Master Fletcher's over here, right? Yeah. So what this means is, how do I explain this? The increased chaos damage means that, or sorry, increased damage over time with bow skills will allow you to scale the Caustic Arrow degen, and I guess Toxic Rain also has a degen, instead of only scaling the damage with ailments. That's a buff. Dirty Techniques now grants 25% increased damage with poison, down from 50, but also grants increased chaos damage with attack skills. So that's the same as the previous one, as Fatal Toxins. They're just promoting just two different types of playstyles instead of just one. Instead of pure poison, they're promoting on hit plus poison. I like that. Deadly Draw and the passives leading to it now grant increased damage over time with bow skills, rather than increased damage with ailments from attack skills while using a bow. Same exact change as before, as we've just talked about. They're just trying to promote different playstyles, so that's fine. Aspect of the Eagle and the passives around it now grant increased dot with bow skills rather than increased damage with ailments. Same exact change. Lethality and the passives have the same treat. Yeah, so it's all the same. Everything that says increased damage with ailments also gives damage over time with bow skills. So it's a generic buff across the board. That's fine. Alongside our broader changes to block chance and spell block, we've reviewed block passive nodes and made some adjustments. The top two passives among Sanctuary, which is this, now grants 2% chance to block, along with their previous 6% res. So these were buffed. They doubled the block chance. While holding a shield, they no longer provide chance to block attack damage. See below. The bottom two passives of the Sanctuary cluster now grant the chance to block attack damage. Oh, I see. Okay, so the top side is spell block, and the bottom side is attack block. So you can choose which one you want to like focus on, or you can just get both. That's fine. The first passive in the Mind Barrier cluster near Witch now grants 40% increased block recovery, while the second now grants chance to block spell damage. The notable now gives 8% chance to block, up from 5. Okay, so they're just buffing this node. This node's kind of whatever. They're making it better. Fine by me. First passive of the Deflect cluster near Shadow now grants chance to block attack, and the second passive gives spell block, and the notable against spell block. This is so many words. Deflect. I've never actually seen a build take this cluster because it's so far. Like most block builds are gladiators, so they're down here. But I guess that's fine. They're buffing this. Whirling Barrier cluster near Templar now grants chance to block spell damage while holding a staff. So you get 12% chance to block spells and attack. That's actually a pretty huge buff for staves. It's currently 6% chance to block, so they doubled it to 12% and they gave it 12% spell block. That's so good. I mean, staves need a lot of work to be meta, right? But that's actually a pretty huge buff. I might try Zurgle's Crank again next league, which is a unique staff that gives you a chance for your ES recharge to start when you block. And if you're an occultist where your recharge can't be stopped if you take damage, it's a really fun build. So you get a total of 12% now. Oh wait, no, you're right. I read that wrong. Wait, no. Whirling Barrier. No, that's I'm right. They buffed just the Whirling Barrier cluster. No, wait, maybe I'm wrong. It's currently 2/2/2. Okay, never mind. They didn't double this. They just gave it spell block in addition to the block chance. So you get 12% instead of just 12%. Not as much of a buff, but still a buff. Reading is hard. All right, Ascendancy Balance Pathfinder was changed. Master Herbalist has been replaced by Nature's Reprisal. You get increased chaos damage. Chaos skills have AoE, which is pretty huge. And upon killing a poison enemy, nearby enemies are poisoned, so it's like a prolift. I believe it prolifts the strongest poison you have on the target. The passives leading to this notable give increased chaos damage and increased effective flasks. That's fine. After that, Master Toxicist, I can't read. You get 10% of physical as extra chaos, 10% of physical converted to chaos, 10% more chaos damage with attack skills. You lose virulence from Herald of Agony, 50% slower, and poisons you inflict during any flask effect have a 40% chance to deal 100% more damage. That's huge. That's a massive buff for Pathfinder poison style builds and chaos attack skills. I like this a lot. I'm a little bit worried it's too strong, but I'm not going to say that a lot, because when we say it's too strong, they nerf it into the ground and then nobody plays it, like what happened to Trickster Chaos Conversion last league. So this looks cool. I'm glad they're like taking a look at Pathfinder Poison, because it's kind of shit right now. Guardian, Prayer of Glory has been replaced by new notable, Radiant Crusade. You and allies affected by aura skills get 20% increased damage, 10% increased AoE for each summoned Sentinel Purity, which is Herald of Purity. 10% more damage when we have at least one nearby ally. That's actually a pretty huge buff. That's actually really good, damn. Herald of Purity has a 40% increased buff effect. Summoned Sentinels of Purity have a 50% increased area. The passive leading to this notable grants increased armor and ES and minion damage. 10% more damage? That's actually so good. So the reason this is important for me is currently for Aura bots, you basically always pick a Scion because it gets Guardian and Necromancer, best of both worlds style things. Now they're kind of differentiating between Guardian, which is like a minion and AoE aura damage buff for you and your minions, versus Necromancer, which is like attacking cast speed, minion damage stuff, versus Scion, which is like lesser of both of them. It's a good thing to have a variety between aura bots, so you're not just always forced to choose the best one. There's actually like a different type of aura bot now. I like that. New notable, which requires Radiant Crusade, Unwavering Crusade. Summon Sentinels use Crusade Slam, 100% increased minion accuracy. That's pretty huge. Minions intimidate nearby enemies for 4 seconds on hit, which is they take 10% increase, which is the same as 10% more. That's pretty good. If you hit an enemy recently, you and nearby allies regenerate life per second. This is so good. Guardian got 20% more damage for a minion style build. So I'm seeing like a Dominating Blow, Herald of Purity, Herald of Agony Guardian that has like a fuckload of minions that are running around beating the shit out of everything and getting AoE buffs for having each other around. I like that. The Crusade, like it is a crusade. It's a holy crusade. That's awesome. You can beat a crusade all by yourself, or you can have friends and minions. Cool, cool. Alright, let's get into legacy items. What's going legacy? Items which previously applied your block chance to spells have all been updated to the new chance to block spell damage. Existing versions of the uniques will have different values to new versions and cannot be updated with a Divine Orb. Okay. Existing Shaper amulets with the lower tier spell block mod now have 8 to 11%. Newer versions have 4.5. Okay, so we gotta get into what this means. Percent spell block, which is things like Reckless Defense, Stone of Lazwar, Rainbow Strides. What else gives percent spell block conversion? I think that's it offhand. There's probably more that I can't think of. Those can't be updated, so those are going legacy. Legacy Reckless Defenses are going to be pretty cool. I have like 50 of those from Spider Queen. I like that. Shaper amulets look like they buffed it. Or sorry, no, they nerfed it. They nerfed the roll, I think. Existing ones have higher version than the new ones. Yeah, so that's interesting. So that's going legacy. If you want to roll Shaper spell block amulets, now's the time. Existing Shaper shields with spell block mod now have chance to block. Wait, hang on. Let me check what that means. Shields. I need to look at Shaper mods. I feel like they give conversion right now. Shaper. Percent. Yeah. So this is actually going legacy as well. Percent block applied to spells. It's probably the same on amulets, actually. Because I believe they have legacy percent chance to block. Yeah, okay. So these are going legacy. If you want to craft a conversion amulet or a conversion shield, now is the time. You have 2 days. So if they're already rolled, they are going legacy. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Elder Staves, same thing. They probably have percent block on that. Existing items with the corrupted implicit for spell block now have a higher version, or lower. What? Spell block corrupted implicit? Is that a conversion mod, or is that... Yeah, okay, so the implicit's going legacy as well. I'm not really sure how this works. Existing versions of uniques will have different values and cannot be updated, but it doesn't say existing items. It just says existing uniques. So I think the items are going to get updated to the new wording, but the uniques aren't, if I'm understanding this correctly. Of the barrier, shield suffix now grants chance to block spell damage up from 1 to 3. Existing items can be updated. Okay. And that can be updated as well. So the spell block suffix is better. Can continue the ongoing process of improving and fixing ambiguous or incorrect mod descriptions. I'm not 100% sure how this affects the rares, which I'm sorry about, but it looks like the uniques will go legacy. So any unique that has percent spell block conversion will go legacy. Okay, unique item balance. This one will be fun. Anima Stone no longer specifies that primordial items you must have to summon an additional golem are jewels. The reason for this was they added a amulet that has the primordial mod on it, so it's now you can have that as well as jewels. Shimmeron now deals 200% lightning damage per second per power charge, down from 400%. Using a divine orb will update it, so that's a buff. Shimmeron will also deal that damage to you if your skills have dealt the crit recently rather than just you. They just gutted Shimmeron Arc Trapper so hard, or Miner. You take the degen, no matter what, Trap, Totem, or Mine. Okay, so Shimmeron is now a 1C unique, because no one's gonna fucking use it. It's dead. Goodbye. Hope Shredder was, they've reduced the degen. It now has a higher attack speed mod. That's a buff. No one uses this currently, so it might actually see use. Nebulock, same thing. They reduced the degen. This was actually being used a little bit, but not much, so they buffed that as well. Combat Focus now causes Elemental Hit to deal 50% less damage of the prevented element, including damage that gets converted from the prevented element to a new element. This affects all existing versions of the jewel, no legacy Ellie Hit jewels. Ellie Hit has been... Avatar of Fire conversion Ellie Hit has been gutted by 50% less damage. Good, because fuck that. I wanted them to actually have to play the random effect, right? Blood of Corruption's Gluttony of Elements now has a Scolding Prevention time of 14 seconds. They buffed this, sure. Gluttony of Elements is a Vol skill that lets you heal off of any elemental damage you take, which is good. They did nerf Ellie Hit. I like that. And they nerfed Shimmeron. I like that too. Items which have previously applied your block chance of spells have been updated to new. We already talked about that. Stone of Lazar has 50% chance to block spell damage. Oh wait, no. Okay, these are not going legacy then. Existing versions now have 50% chance to block. New versions have 12 to 15% block. Okay, so never mind. All the stuff I said about legacy items, never mind. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. They're just converting it to block spell damage. Reckless Defense, Krasid's Chitin, Wrathpith Glove, Sapple's Frame, Rainbow Stride, Wings of Entropy, Centauri's Answer, and Duresso's Courage. That's all this percent spell block conversion stuff. Okay. Monster damage balance, sorry. We've lowered some of the sources of damage in early Act 6, where we often see a spike in deaths due to Kitaba's resistance penalty. So they're making leveling easier, that's fine. They reduced the Scorchy Ray dot. I like that. It doesn't affect player specters, they still do the same damage, so they won't kill you as fast. Updated trap models. Cases of shield throw used by monsters will now explode in the secondary projectiles whether they hit a target or not. Why don't you apply this to player shield throw? Because shield throw is shit. If you gave this to players, it might be actually somewhat viable. Why wouldn't you just do that to everybody? Alright, whatever. Map changes. Zana missions have been updated. When you encounter her, she will offer a selection of different maps and mission types for you to choose from. The maps she offers are always the same tier of the map you are currently in, or one higher. This selection can include shaped maps. The maximum tier map she can now offer as part of a mission is tier 16. Okay, it used to be T15 capped, so that's kind of cool. She could potentially give you a Guardian map, I think. Okay, I like that. Additionally, we've added a bunch of new mission types that work previous League mechanics, such as Breach, into her missions. Okay, so you might get a clear the breach Zana mission, or clear this abyss, or kill that harbinger. I like that. There's more reason to do Zana missions now instead of it being stale all the time. They shortened the random shaper time freeze events quite a lot. Good, because it's like fucking 10 seconds right now and it's dumb. Everybody always thinks they're crashing. Alright, Malformation has even more monster density across the map in most cases. Malformation is actually buffed pretty heavily this league. It's a good layout, it's linear now, and they just gave it more density. Malformation might become a meta map. I like that. Alleyways, same. Okay, both of those are good maps layout-wise, but they gave it better density. Lair, they improved the layout, reduced the density. I think I'm okay with that, because the layout for Lair is really hard to read. Unique map, Careblade can no longer generate layouts to ally to bypass a mini-boss, that's fine. Leandra from the tower no longer speaks, that's fine. Berser from tower has a dirty new trick up his weird fleshy sleeve. Did you have to make a fleshlight reference in the patch notes? Reference? Why? Why did you say this? Who typed this and thought it was okay? Why did you do that? You can now see maps which have been taken over by the Elder or its guardians, even if that map is not yet revealed on your atlas. Okay, sure. Once you have met the Shaper as part of the Hidden Architect questline, the Shaper will influence maps connected to a map you have already completed, and that influence will not shift between maps. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but sure. Alright, this is important. Zana League mods available during 3.4. Level 2 is Onslaught, so you get 20% quant, sure. Level 3 is Bloodlines, yes! Bloodlines is back! Our map returns! The magic mobs are back! I'm so happy about this. Magic mobs are one of the easiest ways to get +1 maps, and Bloodlines was the only way to add a bunch of them reliably. So I'm so happy this is back on level 3. Ambush, 3 extra strong boxes, whatever. Fortune Favors the Brave, so you get a random choice, which is already on there, out of all of these. Level 4, alternate of same tier. Requires a rare map. Opens a random rare map of the same tier, excluding the map you play. This is so fucking good. Holy shit. This might be the best change I've seen in like a league or 5. For your atlas clearing, when you get stuck because you completed a map and you can't get any other maps in it, you can just open that map and you get a random map that isn't that one. That's so fucking good for clearing out atlas, and it only costs 1C. I like this. This is probably the most quality of life change we've seen for the atlas in like since it came out. Okay, level 5 Beyond, same. Level 6 Essence, you get 2 additional Essence mobs, that's fine. Level 6 requires 5 memory fragments found. Shaped tier 1 through 5, it costs 2C. Requires a rare map. Opens a version of your map at 5 tiers higher, randomly rolled as a rare. So you're more or less able to apply a Shaper Orb to a random map of a 1 through 5. Okay. Okay, I see you. Zana. There's another, I guess there's now a reason to level Zana. This is awesome. Level 7 Nemesis, so you got Headhunter chancing back. You can chance Headhunters again. Ancient Orb Headhunters again. Level 7 requires 10 memory fragments found. Requires 6C, you can do a shaped tier 1 through 10. Opens a version of your map at 5 tiers higher, randomly rolled as a rare with a chance to be corrupted. Ooh. Ooh. This is so good so far. Harbinger is back. Okay, we can get Tempest Binding again. And Harbinger and Horizon Orbs, along with Ancient Orbs. That's just cool, overall. Especially with Nemesis being there, you can Ancient Orb Headhunters all next league. Level 8 requires an Elder Orb, which is you have to kill Shaper, basically. You can now Elder a random map, but it costs 15C? That's a lot of chaos. Opens a version of your map at tier 16, randomly rolled as a rare with a chance to be corrupted. I don't know if I like that. 15C is a lot. But yeah, I guess Fortune Favors the Brave becomes more attractive because of this. You can T16 maps randomly, because it includes the ones you haven't unlocked. So once you hit level 4, you can start spamming this, and you can hit this on level 4 for 3C. I like that. People are probably just going to spam this, because like everything on Zana is pretty attractive at this point, except for I guess the corrupted mod stuff. But 15C to get an Elder's T16. I guess if you're trying to sustain maps, that's good. So you could buy, for example, for me, I'm running Elder Underground Seas. If I run out of Elder Underground Seas, I can buy normal Underground Seas and then Elder them forcibly for 15C, which is actually pretty good, considering that in Standard right now it's like 100 Chaos to buy a T16 Elder Underground Sea, so it's only 15C now, which kind of hurts the market, but it'll improve the value of lower tier maps and give you a way to get them easier, so I think that's fine. There's more of a reason to sell low tier maps because you can just Elder all of them if it's a good layout for cheap versus buying the Elder version. I like that. Alright, let's get into world changes. Move the player's spawn location to the feeding troughs farther away from the area of transition. I don't care. Improve walkability around Oak's camp. Sure. Made improvements to the sequence at the end of the final battle. I don't care about any of this stuff. The Deep Dweller is now called the Deep Dweller instead of Granddaddy Crab. RIP Granddaddy Crab 2018. I fucking hate this quest line. I wish you would just remove it. Alright, that's the Scorpion Sand bitch. I hate her. Okay, quest rewards. Zana now rewards the player with a selection of maps upon advancing the state of the early Shaper questline. Again, Atlas completion improvements. I like this. It's clarified in the quest tracker what is required to obtain the 15th memory fragment, which is kill Shaper. Pretty cool. These changes aim to... Okay, next thing. PvP balance. These changes aim to work towards a few goals, namely, to bring PvP scaling formula up to date, tackle unfun or particularly suppressive styles of play, and to begin addressing the dominance of flasks. These are not the only planned changes. We have more on the horizon. We welcome player feedback as we continue improvements. Please note that these changes also affect Hall of Grandmasters. Stop nerfing Spider Queen, motherfuckers. Alright. Enemy players are now hidden from the minimap. That's good. You can't cheese by aiming at the minimap. Alright, PvP scaling. Player versus player damage scaling algorithm has been updated. For those that don't know what this means, there's a T-value PvP scaling thing currently in game, but it's not very up to date for a lot of things. It's so that if you have a character that deals 5 million damage, you obviously can't fight another player with 5k life and have that be balanced, right? So they've reduced the damage of everybody to come into like an equal playing field, sort of. These changes aim to bring physical and elemental damage more closely in line with each other at higher player levels where there are ways around resistance, while accounting for those resistances at player levels where there are not. For physical and chaos damage, the algorithm is damage. I don't know how to read this. For elemental damage, whatever. Okay, you can no longer gain flash charges during a PvP round. This includes both active sources of flash power gain, such as Surgeons, and passive choices, such as Rislotha or Pathfinder. You still gain flash charges between rounds. This is really powerful because it like totally guts out Zerfies from being infinite sustain. Like, a lot. I like that. I don't know exactly what this means math-wise, but it means that they're trying to balance the fact that you can get 100% penetration and one-shot a player through their 75% resists. It's pretty important. And they're probably gonna bring Chaos and Fizz up to par with Ellie, which I like. Alright, trigger supports. Triggered skills, including lab enchants and skills triggered by an item effect, such as Poet's Pen, now deal 80% less damage against players. Fuck off, Poet's Pen. And Commandment of Winter Glove enchant. You can't one-shot people anymore, I'm so happy. Skills supported by Mirage Archer now deal 30% less damage, that's fine. Skills supported by Cluster Trap, Multiple Traps, Minefield, and GMP now deal 50% less damage. Explosive Arrow now deals... Wow, these are some hefty nerfs. Nerf 50% less KB, 50% less Explosive Arrow, Bear Trap 30% less, Glacial Cascade 25% less, Cremation 40% less, Volatile Dead 80% less. God damn. Blight's time override has been lowered from 0.5 down from 1.5. I don't know what that time override means. I think it's the time before this kicks in. Scorching Ray has been nerfed as well. Herald of Ice has been nerfed. Herald of Thunder has been nerfed. Molten Shell has been nerfed. You can no longer target Mirage Archer. Jesus Christ. So, cast when damage taken, cast when stunned, cast on melee kill, cast on crit, all of those things are getting nerfed. It's a pretty hefty nerf to Spider Queen. But that's fine. She's supposed to be hard to kill, not also insta-kill you on time. Alright. Bug fixes. Actually, just overall, this is good. It means you might be able to PvP without getting one shot across the map every single fucking time. That's good. You'll be able to actually enjoy PvP now. I like this. Alright, bug fixes. Fix the bug where Cold Snap did not correctly trigger Patient Reaper. Sure. Fix the bug. This is the life recovery mod on Trickster. Fix the bug where modifiers that increase proj damage taken was applying to all non-melee attack damage, even if it's not from a projectile. Interesting. Fixed a bug where glitter discs you always ignite while burning did not work. I don't know what that is. Fixed a bug where skills with cooldowns and cooldown overrides, such as Cold Snap, were supported by transformative supports with cooldowns such as Trap, would not correctly... Oh, I don't fucking know how to read this. You can't override the cooldown by using Trap. Okay. I'm just gonna read through this real quick. Volatile Dead was fixed. Infernal Bolt Nemesis mod was fixed. Fixed a bug where Gleed Vortex stacks would deal damage during Grace. That's a good fix. They fixed cases of minion damage dealing or taking damage during Grace period. Sure. Fixing a bug where Scorching would burn everything. That's not intended. Okay. Okay. Fix the bug where players with the Watcher's Eye mod that blinds enemies when they hit you would blind you if you hit yourself. Oh, that's amazing. That's so funny. Fix the bug which causes monsters to spawn outside. Fixed cosmetic pets. Fixed issues where burial chambers breaches would spawn in inaccessible terrain. Okay, these are all just like minor stuff. I'm not gonna worry about most of this. Fix the bug where Frostbreath wasn't getting the durable damage mod. That's important. Fix the bug where close all panels was not functioning correctly if remapped. Sure. Fix the bug where, due to rounding errors, level 23 purities were granting 1% less max stars than they should have been at high values of increased aura effectiveness. That's a buff. Fix the bug where players using MacLeod were losing mana in town. That's not intended. Fix the bug where returning Siphon effect would behave strangely for monsters slain with power siphon at great distances. Whatever. Fix the bug where Hierophant's Arcane Blessing would give traps, totems, and mines Arcane Surges as the player. Oh no, my traps, which are dead when I detonate them, have Arcane Surge. Okay, they fixed that. Fix the weird labyrinth quest states that... Wait, what? Fixed weird labyrinth quest states a dead character hard... Okay. I can't read. I'm sorry. Fixed a bug where the Hierophant... hang on. I need to just stop trying to speak English for a minute. Fixed weird labyrinth quest states a dead hardcore character could find themselves in after transferring to standard. I don't know why that was so hard to read, but it was, and I'm sorry. Fixed a bug where Yena's Fireflies option never went away. Fixed a literal bug. One of Yena's Fireflies had incorrect flavor text. Fixed a bug which caused Plague Maw's offering Strongbox to not be a Strongbox. Fixed the bug which allowed totems to be supported by Curse on Hit despite Curse on Hit saying it couldn't and not doing anything for them anyway. Okay. Fixed the bug which allowed multiple separate on-item support effects to appear as though combined, which resulted in items to be claimed to be supported by level 38 increased crits. This was a display issue and didn't actually do anything. Fixed a bunch of typos and improves the symmetry of written versus spoken. Fixed an instant crash caused by a Sextant Barrel mod behaving badly. Okay. Great. That was a long fucking patch notes thing. I hope you guys enjoyed. We will include timestamps in the description or in the comments if somebody wants to actually do that. I would appreciate if you commented all of the timestamps. I will pin whoever has them all, right? That's for YouTube. For you on Twitch, we're going to continue discussing these for a bit or two. If you have any last questions, feel free to ask. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the YouTube video here. And we'll keep discussing it here on Twitch. Maybe I'll record that as well and upload it afterwards. I don't know. I'm going to stop this here, though. Hope you enjoyed. Okay, we're back with the discussion. What do you guys want to talk about?